All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am with my guest, the star of the new poker movie Dead Money, Emile Hirsch. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us here at Poker News.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
The movie is coming out on Friday, September 13th. I actually just had the chance to watch an advanced screening, a presser, and really enjoyed it. And I want to just start, right at the beginning. How did you get involved with this project?
So I had worked with the producers. They had produced a film called Walden that I'd been in, and I had a lot of fun making that film. And they reached out to me and sent me this script that Josh Wilcox had written. And Josh, Josh used to be a poker regular at Hustler, and I mean that was what he did for a living. He was a real grinder. So the screenplay had a kind of authenticity to it, which I found kind of cool and was almost like an examination of like an addiction where he's kind of Andy, my character, he's sort of justifying his play a lot with saying that he's using logic and all this stuff, but then you see him make all these really emotionally based decisions that like a better player wouldn't make. But Andy is not a pro yet. He's still kind of coming up and sort of learning a lot of the hard lessons.
It's funny you mention that aspect of it. I think I read somewhere that the original title of the film wasn't Dead Money, but Degenerate,
Yeah, I was degenerate.
which seems apt, having seen the movie. And I'm glad you mentioned Josh Wilcox because you're right. That does give it, his experience gives it that flavor. Like we've seen poker movies where it's clear the people who are involved have never played a hand of poker, but here,
Yeah, it's just so obvious.
right. And here you have the screenwriters involved, and you actually played a little poker before this movie, right?
I played, but it was like the kind of playing I would do where I'd play every couple years and then I would just savagely lose and then just quit and then not play for a few years. And that was sort of my kind of groundhog day routine that I would sort of do. But when I got sent the script, I was excited because I was like, this is a chance for me to kind of get back into playing and maybe I'll learn how to play better and win and it was really cool. Like the producers of the movie wanted me to experience a high stakes game, like for real before we shot. So they flew me to Vegas and they got me into Alan Keating's game. And we actually played and we played for 2 nights. And the first night I lost over six figures. And I was like, and before that, you have to remember, before that, the most I'd ever lost gambling was like $1,000, $1,500, and I would like go home and be sick to my stomach, right? And so suddenly to have lost, six figures, I was like, oh my God. Like I was like, this is and I lost after playing well. I'd studied a lot, I'd coached a little bit, I'd watched all these master classes with Ivey and Negreanu, and like I'd really put some work in. And the hands I got taken out on were just bad beats. You know what I mean? Like, and so I talked my way into going the second night, and I was like, I can go. Just give me one more shot, and da da da. And I'm thinking, if I lose again, like if I lose another six figures, like this is the worst thing ever. Like it's it was unfathomable. And I went back and I lost half my stack and was like, oh my gosh, this is all happening again. I just felt like I wasn't getting a hand, I wasn't getting anything. And I just was like, I kind of shut down and I was like, I just went into like pure survival mode and I just folded for like hours and just was the most patient dude ever. And then all of a sudden, within an hour, it was like waiting in the ocean for waves. And then all of a sudden, like the biggest set just comes one after another. So it was like pocket aces, and I flopped a set. It would be like jacks and queen kings. I mean, it was, and I came all the way back from all the money that I'd been down, and I basically got even and just walked. And I felt um like Rocky at the end of the movie where he went. It was like crazy, and all these like vicious, degenerate, ultra rich poker player guys, like all these guys I'd never met before, but they're all just like fiends for this game, and they're kind of they're not monsters, but you saw the movie, like they're gnarly. You know what I mean? These are like some they want to win. They don't want you. They're not there to have a good time. They want to beat you. That their idea of having a good time. And so I told the producer after, I was like, I think they were pretty pissed. They're pissed off of me when I left. And he's like, good. He goes, if they're happy, that's not good for you. And I was like, okay. So that was honestly a completely crazy experience for me. And and then I went and played a bunch of random underground games in Atlanta with Josh when we were shooting the movie, all the crazy weird games, and it was fun. It was just like a wild world. And even after the film, I would play at like Hustler and Hollywood Park and Commerce, and just like play like the 5-5 or the 5-10. And then I played the World Series of Poker main event.
I saw that. I seen
I
your
flamed out
tweet.
though. I did so badly. I like the guy literally like turned straight and I had aces, and I just was like fell in love with him, and just classic donkey behavior.
Uh,
Um,
I was so sad we missed you in it because Poker News does the live updates. We like to look for the stories, but you just blended in. You had your hoodie on, I'm sure, and nobody ever did anybody recognize you what you were playing?
I don't know if they did. If they did, they didn't say anything.
Yeah, there's a you get to the World Series, you played on Hustler Casino Live, but you also got to know some of some famous people in our industry, such as Nick Airball, Alan Keating, who you mentioned, Ryan Feldman. What was it like to rub elbows with some of the highest stakes players in the poker world?
They're all great dudes. And, Alan was sort of the first one I'd met out of them. And he's awesome. And I've stayed in touch with him, and we're friendly and friends.
He has
And
a little cameo in the movie.
yeah, he's great. We just hung out in New York the other day, and Airball's awesome. And it's kind of fun because I started doing paintings a few months ago, and I would paint these players and stuff. So these players were started to like these really high stakes guys were hitting me up. They're like, "Hey man, do a portrait or do." So I was like, "Heck yeah, that's an awesome use of my time." And originally I was like, "I'll paint to get a bankroll to
Right.
play." You know what I mean? Like the most obvious thing. I was like, well, I'll just paint for a bankroll. And that way I won't like, get all bummed, like thinking I'm tapping into like my, son's college tuition or something to play some crazy game.
Yeah, I mean that's a smart move, and I seen some of these paintings on Twitter when you were presenting them to Airball and Alan Keating and stuff. Pretty talented stuff. It seems like it was like that seems like a really good idea. Like, let me just use my talent, and all these poker players have a lot of money and will like this sort of thing.
And it's fun too. Like I do, and I think poker, it's a game that like visually paints well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, it's fun. You see the chips, it's just the vibe, the attitude, it's cool. But I'm excited for this movie to come out, and people to check it out. And I think the poker hands are really well done too. Like as far as, the way Josh handled that and organized the hands, they're not like too cliche Hollywood hands.
Yeah, when I watch a movie like this, I always look for like the authenticity. How do the people handle the cards? How are the hands set up, right? We're not going to see royal flush versus four of a kind. Like, yeah, it does happen in poker, but not often. So when we see those sort of hands in the movies, poker fans are like, that's not great. But the hands in the movie, I thought were all pretty legitimate.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty good. They're weird too, some of them. You're like, "Oh, that's weird." You're like, "That's rare," but it's not like the standard rare.
Right. What was it like to work with some veteran actors that were in there, like David Keith and Jackie Earl Haley, two guys that I know, from their work throughout the years, and we're really happy to see in this film.
They're great. They're so talented, and they both almost have like minds like directors or writers. Like they're just very good at like seeing the film kind of from a bird's eye view as a whole, and being able to change and alter things and give their opinions. And they're just so experienced. They're also talented. almost do it with their eyes closed in a way, you know. But they still come and show up, and they're really going for it. And India Isley and Peter Facinelli are both fantastic, and Noah Segan, and you know, Jimmy John Louise. Like one of the strengths of the film is really the cast, you know, and the specificity of all the performances that Luke Walpoth, the director, gets out of everyone. You know what I mean? And it's just it's just like a very solid ensemble where even the smallest role is really well cast.
You said in other interviews that playing poker, dipping your toe into our world, kind of gave you that vice, right? Like gave you that little fire, whatever you want to call it. We've all experienced it who have been in poker. Do you still have that itch, so to speak? Do you think you'll be around the poker world for a little while?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll be around it to a certain extent just because like I know all these guys now and I'm doing these paintings and you know in my spare time and so in a way I will and I still I mean I watch HCL all the time. I'll watch The Lodge, I'll watch Mariano and Rampage their vlogs and Brad Owen and Lexo and you know so I'll watch Hungry Horse Poker, you know, I'll watch a lot of different YouTube videos like kind of a lot. It's just super engaging. Like even if it's not your money, like I still like watching all the videos and all the hands, and it's just really interesting. And I do think that poker poker does strengthen a lot of uh life skills. You know, you can work on a lot of sides of yourself every time you play poker, whether it's you know, attention to details and memory or just keeping your cool under pressure or being able to like learn how to read people. It makes you sharper for sure.
I appreciate you putting the effort that you obviously did into learning poker, experiencing our industry. In other poker films, I'm sure a lot of actors just go through the motions, but you actually took the time to learn, to play, to compete, and actually understand our world.
Well, part of it is, you know, I did the movie so I could do that. You know what I mean? It was like, it's not like, oh, he committed to his role. It's like, no, he committed to the movie so he could play.
Well, yeah, that's fair. That's smart too. I got to ask real quick. There was one scene in the movie where you have to sink a pretty long golf putt. How many takes did that take you to actually make it?
I want to say, so I think because they all made bets. Keating made a bet with Luke and everything.
Of course they did. Poker
It
play.
it was and it was a long putt. It was if I make it in under 17 strokes, then Keating wins and Luke took the over. And I made it, I think, on the 11th.
There you go. Winning Alan
But
keep money.
yeah, it was cool. And I guess because I did it I don't know, Keating doubled his bet like halfway through, and then they took those odds, and so he made like even more money than he would have.
I love it. I'm actually going to be speaking to Alan Keating here later today to talk to him a little bit about his experiences and stuff too. I just got one last question for you. This isn't to do with the movie per se, but I just got to ask with the opportunity. One of my favorite movies is The Autopsy of Jane Doe because it stars yourself and my all-time favorite actor, Brian Cox. I'm just curious, what was it like to do that film and work with Brian Cox?
It was amazing. He's so much fun to work with, and he's so talented and funny and informative, and so many stories. You know, a lifetime of great stories, and he was just a lot of fun to work with, and just a great emotional dude, strong dude. Um, and the movie was honestly kind of disturbing. I mean, it's a dark movie and you know, we're morgue workers. I mean, it was kind of creepy, you know. And
Did you do that for that film like you did for Dead Money? Like you did some research, you immersed yourself? Did you actually go to a morgue or anything?
yeah, I went into the Los Angeles morgue even though we shot the movie in England, in London on a stage. Um, I went to the LA morgue before we started shooting and it's really disturbing, dude.
Yeah, I can only
The
imagine.
kind of thing you can't unsee, you know, when and you just I mean, I remember walking in and you know, like they say like, "Oh, his jaw dropped." my jaw dropped. Like I was like, and I don't do that very often. It's just like, uh, I don't know. I would just
Yeah,
recommend staying alive and not getting an autopsy done.
I can only imagine.
Strongly recommended.
Well, I can strongly recommend Dead Money, which is coming out, as I said, on Friday, September 13th, likely out by the time people see this. Where can they check it out? I believe it's going to be in limited theaters and on
Yeah,
kind of.
it'll probably be in a few random theaters and then everywhere online streaming and stuff.
Well, cool. Emile Hirsch, thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you very much.